Hello, my name is Jose Nunez, and I will be going over the Dr. Horticulture version 1.0 installation and maintenance guide. Dr. Horticulture is an application that was built off Apple's Xcode IDE along with their Swift 4 development language. So I will be going over the installation for that. It also relied on a server that was built off of Python version 2.7. So I will also go over the installation of Python. And it as well used a Firebase database, which is provided by Google, and corresponding CocoaPods files, which I will also go over. So to begin with, we have to download Xcode. Note that Xcode 9.2 is the one that was used for this project. However, Xcode 9.3 has been released since of March 29th. In order to find an older version, you might have to do a little more digging, which I have right here, and you can see that Xcode 9.2 can be downloaded from this site. A link to the site will be provided in the maintenance and installation document of the final document. Note, however, that Swift 4 is already included with version 9.2 and won't need any further installation. With regards to Google's Firebase database, it is available from the Firebase console page. You may simply Google Firebase console and arrive at this page. Once you have logged in, you'll see all the projects which you have created or have been granted access to. In this case, we are interested in the Dr. Horticulture version 1.0 database. Here on the home page, we can see statistics about the usage of the database, along with all the different modules that you can add, such as the database, authentications, and a bunch more. Where we're interested is in the users. Here we can see all the users and or applications that have been granted access to the Dr. Horticulture Firebase database. Here you can see that I myself, Jose Nunez, have been granted access with the role of owner since I originally created the Firebase database. If you desire to switch roles, you can simply click on it and add in additional roles or remove roles as such. In order to grant access to new individuals, you may choose to add them here, in which you would simply need to type in their Google email or corresponding email and then give them a role. In order for Firebase to properly connect with the application, you will need to ensure that CocoaPods have been installed, as well as perform pod install within the terminal of your Mac OS. So, in order to ensure that CocoaPods have been installed, you will need to go to your command terminal, which is located in Applications, Utility, Terminal. Once there, if you're unsure whether CocoaPods is already installed, you may simply run pod --version, and it will either return an unknown command if CocoaPods has not been installed, or the version of your CocoaPods. Here you can see that CocoaPods is already installed and it's version 1.4. However, if it were not to be installed, you can simply run sudo gem install CocoaPods. I will leave a link to this site so that you can see the guide in installing CocoaPods. Once you have fully installed CocoaPods, you will want to go back to the project location. Within the actual project folder, there is a pod file. This pod file contains all the pods necessary to run each aspect of the Google Firebase database. In this case, the core of the database, the authentication, as well as the Google sign-in. In order to ensure that these pods work correctly once you have Xcode and CocoaPods installed, you will need to go back to the terminal and perform pod install. While at the terminal, you will have to change directory to where you have the pod file located. In this case, it's in my desktop / Dr Horticulture version 1.0. Once there, you will simply run pod install to install all the pod files. Then there you can see that the pod files were installed. You have Firebase Analytics, Auth, Core, Database, Google Sign-In, Google Toolbox, and more. While we're here, it is important to note that new Firebase pods or applications can be added in, and every time you will need to simply add them into the pod file and then rerun pod install. Now the CocoaPods and the corresponding pod files have been fully set up, and you have downloaded Xcode along with Swift for the application. Now the CocoaPods and the corresponding pod files have been fully installed and set up, you can now run the application and demo it. With regards to the actual database, you simply scroll to the database section and click on Getting Started. Here you will see what information the database currently controls. Here you can see plants 1, 2, and 3, their corresponding fields and information. In order to add in additional plants, you must simply maintain the naming scheme as provided, so as to not cause conflicts when retrieving the data. Finally, the last piece of installation is with regards to Python. Since the server is run on Python, you will need to install Python. In this case, we use Visual Studio's Community 2017 to install Python. Thankfully, they have provided an installation guide where you can follow, set up to your specific system requirements. Note that we used version Python 2.7, not Python 3, which is currently the latest version. That concludes the installation guide. Thank you all for staying and watching.